we're gonna start living like semi-regular life when I can come see you in Bali? When do you think I can come see you in Bali?
Oh, I think they'll open up. I'm thinking July they'll
Yeah.
open up the airports. I think by July. I think that's my. I think they have to.
I think they'll open up some countries and maybe not the others, you know.
Right, yeah. But in
Yeah.
terms of Bali, I think they'll open up the airport again. I think they're going to open it up in June. But when they will lift the restrictions for people to come in,
Right.
I think that'll probably be July, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that since Bali has such low, unless something changes here,
Right.
which I don't foresee that. I think it's going to be a little haven here because there's not much happening.
Right.
It's been really quiet.
Yeah.
They've had a few cases come in, but they've all come in from foreign countries and they isolated them right away and they're in the hospitals. And unless it gets out, but it just doesn't seem to want to take off here. It's too hot.
Well, it's getting really hot in India too, but the cases are really, they're not
slowing down yet?
Not slowing down. I think also it's because every week they're increasing more testing, you know. So
Sure.
It's not like I don't know if it's necessarily a case of more people getting it. I just think it's more, you know,
testing. Right.
Yeah.
Well, that, and there are just so many weird things about it. Like I just saw one thing on the prisons in America. They've tested 2 prisons, and 96% of the people that were tested positive, which was like most of them, had no symptoms.
Yeah.
96%. So that leads me to believe that these test kits are probably wacky.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think this is.
Yeah, there's something that's not
being said.
Yeah, or maybe being understood also.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I do think it's a real virus or whatever you want to call it, but there's a real reaction. There's a real organism that is definitely causing some people a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as, I don't know. It's wacky. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have all the answers yet, but.
I don't think anyone does, Don.
Yeah. But I do think that this was my newest theory today, is that I think that this virus got out accidentally.
Yes, that's for sure.
I'm quite certain of that. And that none of like everybody had their agenda, like all these different factions had their agenda. And they're rushing forward since this is happening to try to
kind of push their agenda,
make their agenda happen, but none of them were ready.
Right.
I think it's like they were a few years too soon.
Yeah.
And so I think they're all going to fail. That's what I think.
Right.
That's my newest theory.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I know, we'll see. But there was definitely an agenda to depopulate the planet, and I don't know that it's going to happen.
Right. Okay, so Don, we are live, but we're going to wait for a few participants to just come now because it starts at 5. Yeah. But we can keep chatting. It's okay. Okay. How is Ilona?
Excellent. I mean, she's busy too. I mean, she's just been, she did that webinar with you guys, and she's been doing a few other online things, quite a few online things in Germany, and teaching and preparing new courses and working on things and being creative.
Yeah. That's
and
nice.
Making food.
That's good. Are you cooking as well, or only her?
Well, I'm helping a lot with the food, but we're doing a lot of freeze drying. So we got a freeze dryer. So that's quite a technical process to preserve the food.
Right.
And so I do a lot of the technical stuff, but I've been doing a lot of food preparation and working in the garden and get things going.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Can you use the beach at all?
Yes. Yeah, I'm still snorkeling and going to the beach, and I mean, it's our beach, basically. So nobody's
lucky man.
Yeah. Yes, I know that. I feel blessed. Both of us wake up every day and just, we're in awe of everything just going.
Right.
We're so blessed. We're so blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you recording also?
Yes, we're recording.
Okay, good. Somebody just said hi, but I don't know who it was.
Namaste, Dawn.
Yeah, I saw that. Namaste. So you've had pretty good attendance for all the webinars?
Yes, really nice, good attendance.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, people, did they start opening India up? Did I read that?
Certain districts, certain regions,
Okay.
which, there's not that many cases. So funnily enough, in Goa, there's no case.
It's like here, I wonder if it has something to do with the ocean. I mean, I don't.
But we are by the ocean also.
That doesn't make sense, does it?
No, I don't know.
I haven't figured it out because we had, here's one theory. This is one theory. It may hold up for Goa as well.
Hold on, I think they're trying to call me.
Okay.
Yeah. Hello? Huh? Yeah. Okay.
So our theory is that there are 3 different types of viruses, A, B, and C, and in the earlier stages, before China had announced that it was actually happening, we had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Chinese people here, and we think that it may have just gone through Bali, but it was the type A, which nobody, because everybody, of course, they got their sickness and everything. It was going on.
Right.
But I think possibly it gave immunity to the next wave because we've had, I think 3 people die in Bali.
That's it.
That's it. I mean, there's just nothing going on here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few cases.
And that's probably like less deaths than accidental deaths or deaths due to regular life,
Yeah,
which happen.
Yeah, I mean 3 deaths from the coronavirus.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I was just comparing that, anyways, that many deaths happen.
Right, for sure.
From other things, accidental things.
Absolutely.
And there's not that many people on the road or anything right now. So,
Right, everything is very quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom.
Awesome.
You guys have been back in Bali since March.
February, actually. We came back about 3 weeks early from India because we had to go to Singapore to get our visa. And it was right when Singapore was starting to break out. And we thought at some point they're going to shut down the airport from Singapore to Bali because it's a major hub.
Right.
And so we thought waiting 3 weeks is not such a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think you made the right decision.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were planning to come by and see you guys.
Yeah.
And we just said, you know what, we're just going to fly home. And we did. It was a good time. And we got here and we could, because our house wasn't finished and we could take care of a lot of things and kind of get settled in. And before everything kind of locked down, we got to prepare a lot. We could buy some extra food and do those things that we needed to do. It was great. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it's 5 minutes to 5. We'll wait a few more minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't see how many people are watching on Facebook, right? Do you see that?
No, we don't. We won't know.
Okay.
We cannot see. I mean, I have the tech team can probably see it.
Oh yeah. Oh nice.
Okay, so we are live.
Yeah, the coronavirus is kind of the hot subject, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. It's, I mean, we were chatting about it, but what I want to talk more about with people is
Yeah.
just some future thoughts and future technology and what we can do with this.
Yes.
And we've just got amazing things that we can
do
tap
with this.
into.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is the time now when all of this healing, all of this technology, everything that we've been building for so many years can really do what it needs to. It was kind of like made for today.
Exactly. And we've been preparing this for this kind of scenario for about 25 years, I think. I think a lot of people have sensed that this was coming.
Right.
We didn't quite know how it would take shape.
Right.
But
no one did.
But last summer, Ilona was like really getting the call or the feeling to start preparing food and all of those kinds of things,
right.
and storing some extra food. This was last summer. And then I think by September, she said, well, something's coming. She said, I don't think it'll be a virus, though. I think maybe it'll be like an electromagnetic weapon that wipes out the electricity or something. But she thought maybe it's going to be a virus, but something big is coming.
yeah.
And it did.
Yeah, and it did.
It did. Boy.
Ilona is mostly right.
I know. I've learned that over the years.
That's a smart husband, Don.
Well, I've had my bumps along the way.
Yeah, I can imagine. How long have you been married now?
Oh, it's been 35 years, I guess, a little bit more, 36 years.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course, I thought I used to be always right until I met her.
And said every man ever.
Oh, I guess so. That's true. It's part
all the
of
happy
male
ones.
thing.
All the happy ones.
That's right.
Okay, so now it's 5 p.m. and I can see that the attendees are coming in. So I will officially begin our unofficial chat. Shall now get official. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Pinky Daga. I'm the CEO of Thriive Art and Soul. Today with me, I have my dear, dear friend, Dr. Dawn Paris. But I have very impressive friends. So I must tell you that Dawn is one of the leading creators and speakers and just quantum scientists who knows everything there is to ever know about radionics, scalar waves, and how quantum technology can really, really help us in this crisis time. It's a really fascinating topic because there's many people like we are not educated on this. We don't even know, but this is a science, this is technology, guys. Dawn Paris is also a published author, speaker, video producer, and musician. His book, Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions, has been published internationally in German, Spanish, Japanese, Portuguese, and English. He is the guru of SE5, the world's most respected subtle energy scalar instrument. Dr. Paris has created the most detailed explanations of the principles of radionics and the most advanced training courses in the entire field of radionics and scalar technology. He began exploring the subtle dimensions in the early 70s and now has trained people in over 30 countries around the world in the working of radionics and subtle dimension realities. So welcome, Dawn. I hope that was a good explanation. And this, I just wanted to say all of this because it just gives people an understanding about how deeply you've worked with the technology, how many years you've spent developing it, and what quantum technology can really do for our lives today. And you're going to have to make it really simple, Dawn, because we don't know anything about it.
Okay, well, I'll do my best. Yeah. It's a very deep subject, and like you said, I've been doing it for so long, it's second nature to me.
Yes.
And basically, I've surrounded myself with people that do that. So it's kind of a universal thing for me. Okay. Everybody I know uses this technology, and it's become an everyday thing. But for people that have not been exposed to it, it can appear like way out there.
Yeah.
Like, how could this be even possible?
Almost as if it's like fraudulent, Like
right.
People don't, it's very hard to believe.
yeah, I mean, it's getting easier and easier because we've had television shows like Star Trek, where they had the tricorder, and you know, the concepts of what was happening in Star Trek we've been doing for, before Star Trek was even invented, but now the understanding of step by step is coming to light, and I think that's what's important, especially in this time, because we're learning so many things about ourselves. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of introspection during these last few weeks.
Oh, yes.
And it's bringing about a change in who we are as humanity, which I think was needed. And I do hope things will get somewhat back to normal at some point, but I think this time is really good. I remember when I was reading about the spiritual levels, the different levels of spirituality. And as you move into these higher and higher frequencies, there's this point that they talk about that's called the rest points in eternity. Because we're in this incarnational cycle of forever. It's been going on forever in both directions, past, present, and future. But there are these nodal points where we come into this space where it appears as though nothing is happening. So I wouldn't quite call it the void, but it kind of feels like that. And I've hit those points several times in my life. And after I read about them and understood them, it made more sense to me. These are the times to like gather your chi and prepare for the next wave, because the wave is coming. And so if you can be creative and think about what you want to do during that next wave, you can get on that wave and it'll pick you up and it'll take you to the next destination. And so that's what I've been using a lot of this time for, is to pre-create my next wave. And I mean, I've been doing that for 30 years, 40 years, but this next wave will be, like you were saying, much more open to thoughts like quantum reality. Quantum realities they're weird, but they're real. And we've been living with them forever, but the general public has not been. So that's what I want to share a little bit about in this presentation. I did make some slides, and I can show pictures so that people can see, oh, this really works. It's amazing.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see, you'll have to enable me to do that because it said that the host has disabled it.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about is scalar electromagnetics. I won't go too deep into it, but these intrinsic data fields, they are informational fields. And the information is the key here, because I will relate it a little bit to what's going on with the coronavirus, but not too deeply. But basically, let's just think about this for a second. What is a virus? A virus is not a living thing. It doesn't like crawl around and go places. What it is a little piece of information in DNA or RNA that's coated with a protein coating around it that protects it, so that it can then bind with other living beings and integrate that information. And so it doesn't really have a life of its own as such, but it has information. And so when you understand that these informational fields are real information, they're complex data fields. It's difficult to describe in words. That's why I want to show you a few things. But information is the key. So let's look at that, and I'll show you what I mean by that and where they come from. If I can get there we go. I think I went too far. Okay, well, here's an experiment that was done. Now, keep in mind when you watch this, these are two vases with water in them. One has tap water in it, and the other one has informed water. We put certain information into the water through scalar energy. So it's not any different. We call it charged water, but there's no electricity or anything. It's just been informed, kind of like homeopathy, has information in it. So just watch this and you'll see what happens. What? So that information preserved those flowers for 25% longer. So let's think of it in a simple manner. Let's say that you prayed into some water. When you're praying into water or you give energy to water from your own chi, there's an actual transference of energy. But what we're talking about is just information, putting pure information into the water. Right. So I'm going to try to explain this of how manifestation works and where we're working from. So if you start at the top, we'll talk about soul as being the primary beingness. And then as soul starts to move into the physical world, it takes on different vibrational frequencies to create everything that's around us, everything that we see. So the first movement of soul is to take on the causal archetypes, or these the intention to cause something to happen. And these causal archetypes are kind of like the preformed or the very first attribute of something that soul is so hard to comprehend. It's so undifferentiated. It starts to differentiate itself, and sometimes that's called the causal body or the causal area. And then the scalar level, this is the informational level. This is where soul then starts imprinting informational fields, and it's like a matrix of everything that will come. And so that's where we're working, is at this informational scalar level. But in order to create energy, you need at least two scalars. You have to have a place for this information to go. And that's what we call a vector. So point A to point B gives direction to these scalar fields. And then we can have energy. Right. And that's how you get subatomic particles or photons. So once you have a vector, you have some energy movement. Just by the movement of energy through space, it'll actually create photons. And then once you have photons, these photons can form together to create atomic nuclear atoms, energy bound up in atomic form. Right. Once you have the atomic levels, you've got the electrons, then you've got the etheric level and this electrical power. You've got something tangible by this point that everybody can feel. We believe that atoms exist, but we can't go and see them. Right. But electricity, everybody knows exists. Yes. Grab a hold of a little wire and you'll feel it.
Right.
So this is the first level where we're getting real, tangible, physical results. Once you've got an electrical field, then the molecules form with the different atoms together, and that'll create the chemical level. And of course, we all believe in chemicals because we've experienced them.
Yes, of course.
Once you have the molecules, they will form together to build the cells. And then the cells will combine to create tissues, and the tissues will create organs. And then eventually, from all of that, the organs combine to create an organism. And that is what we perceive ourselves to be in the living three-dimensional world. But it all starts up here at the scalar level in terms of what we consider three-dimensional time and space. Starts as a very, very small amount of information. Just a map. It may not be exactly like this, but this is a pretty good map of what we think it is.
Right.
So here's some examples of us sending information to some trees. Now, these trees were acid damaged trees. These were in Europe, and they were being treated about 100 kilometers away from the tree. Okay, and I'll get into this in a little bit.
Okay.
So they were sending information to these damaged trees over time, and 3 years later, this is the same tree.
Wow.
So it repaired the damage, and the tree could then grow back to its full life. So here's another one. This is another stand of trees. This was about 50 kilometers away, and after 3 years, they look like this.
Wow.
And these were done with control trees, ones that weren't being sent information to and the ones that were, and they did all the studies. This was done in Germany back in the 1990s. This has been around for a long time. This goes back even further. Galen Hieronymus was in the 1950s and 60s, and then he was working for a very long time in the field of radionics. But he did this experiment in the 70s with 3 astronauts that went to the moon. This was a bit of his equipment. I mean, it's like from the 1950s. It's old style radionic equipment, but it worked very well.
Yeah.
So he took the vital signs of the astronauts every hour on the hour from a photograph. So he had a photograph of the astronaut sitting on Earth and using his instrument tuned into those astronauts going all the way to the moon every hour on the hour. And he made 500 pages of entries. A lot of work.
Lots of work.
And he sent it to NASA and said, can you compare this, what I did here on Earth from a photograph, to what you were taking the vital signs on the spacecraft?
Wow.
And it matched all their measurements hour by hour.
Wow.
So this is the kind of technology that has been around for a very long time. It's not very well accepted because it interferes with the pharmaceutical model of medicine and also in agriculture. I'll show you some things that we did in agriculture without any fertilizer. You know, it's just amazing. But Dr. Willard Frank is the inventor, or Bill Lawson. He also went by Dr. Willard Frank. This was my mentor and my teacher, and I worked with him for about 25 years, and he actually invented the SE5. And so after he passed away, then I took over all of his work. And he was just one of the smartest people I've ever met. I mean, he was very, very highly intelligent person. This was one of his first instruments. This was the first digital radionic device that was ever invented, and that was the Digitron D.
Okay.
And then after that, he developed the SE5, the one on the left here, and then the SE5 Plus after that. And then that was the last one that he worked on. And after he passed away, then I took the basics from the SE5 Plus and upgraded it into today's modern USB connections and ways to interact with PC, which we didn't have back then.
Right.
So I've written a book about this called Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions, which you mentioned, and people can go to my website and download it for free. So if you sign up for my newsletter, you'll also get on my book, and you can download that for free. you'll get the PDF of that. So they might want to write that down, or later we can give that address again, but it's just se-5.com.
Right.
So this was done by Dr. Sunny Bhavsar, who is my contact person in India, and he's been working with me for about 8 years, I think. And this was an experiment he did where he took 2 nectarines, and he gave information from the SE5 and balanced this one, and this one he didn't, and he just set them out and let them go.
Right.
And so you can see the difference. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
And then we did this experiment at the Pyramid Center. This was just amazing. They took the SE5 and used some informational fields as well as a pyramid. They wanted to compare it with a pyramid.
Yeah, we did this. We actually did this at our Bangalore Center, right? In Pyramid Valley, right?
Yeah, at Pyramid Valley, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen the results. It's amazing.
This was amazing.
Yeah.
So these are just the numbers, but let's look at the pictures. They're more amazing. So yeah, that's Pyramid Valley. And we actually used a photograph of the pyramid as one of the ways to send energy to the tomatoes, which I thought was a creative thing to do.
Yeah, that's super creative.
This was inside the pyramid. If you guys haven't been there yet, it's just an amazing place. And Sri Patraji is the leader of the Pyramid Spiritual Society. And Amit Goswami was at that conference of the quantum energy medicine.
Yes.
Right. So this was the sample that got no balancing, no informational fields. And this was by July 4th. They cut open a bunch of them and tasted them. The first one on the left here rotted away completely. So that one never made it to the July 4th tasting. But the one on the right had some mold coming on it, but it was still red inside. It didn't taste very good looking at those taste samples. But this started on April 26th and went till July 4th. This was the virtual pyramid, which means we just took a photograph of that big pyramid and we sent the energy to the tomatoes. And that one did very well, which you'll see turned out to be the winner. But the first one was cut open and had still a very good taste from the taste test. And this was the actual photo that we used you guys used as the sending it.
Right. So Don, how can you get energy from a photograph? How does it pick it up?
Everything actually has its own vibrational field. And I'm gonna explain it like this. The same way, if you're watching a movie and there's a beautiful, peaceful scene and it makes you feel a certain way, every image has its own energetic field. And and we interpret that. Our brain can tune into that and our emotional body can tune into that. And if that switches to a violent scene, for example, we'll have a whole different chemical reaction in our body. And when it goes back to the peaceful scene, that'll calm down. But we use scalar electromagnetics to catch that resonant field. And then we can send that, because we're working with collapsed electromagnetic fields, which I explained in my book. I go a lot more into detail in my book to explain
of course,
them. To send those fields, to send that information, we collapse the electromagnetic spectrum and it kind of opens up a little bit like a wormhole in time and space. So there's no separation from the energy at this point, at point A where we are, and our distance. It doesn't even matter. Like Galen Hieronymus was measuring them all the way at the moon from a photograph.
Right.
So it's an odd phenomena. I've tried to explain it in my book. To be honest with you, nobody really understands it. I'm doing my best.
But it's kind of, I understand that it's every image carries its own energy. So
it really does. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. And if it's an old image?
the image can still have some information, but the way we use it in radionics is that we use it as a tuning device mechanism. Yeah. So a lot of times we'll use like a strand of hair, and the hair has a DNA spiral in it, which resonates. And they've done experiments. Cleve Baxter did these experiments in The Secret Life of Cells and The Secret Life of Plants. And they would drive people like 50 miles away, and the cells were still responding to the events of the person 50 miles away in real time.
Wow.
So there's a scalar connection, and they're like little scalar coils.
Right.
But this was the physical pyramid. This was actually the loser. It really didn't do well at all. For some reason, we didn't figure that one out. I'm still puzzled by that one, but it didn't preserve well. And then this one was just with the photo, sending it via radionics with the SE5. And that one did very well too. But the winner was actually that virtual pyramid. Here's a comparison. You can kind of look at them. They left that last virtual pyramid tomato until August 26th. August 26th. So it was 123 days later.
Wow.
And finally, you guys cut it open and tasted it and said it was still pretty good. Now, this, no refrigeration, no nothing. This was just preserving it with information.
Yeah.
So these are just amazing things. Now, in China, I have some friends in China, and you've met them, Wang Gang and Hanye.
Yes.
And they've been to your house.
Yes.
And so in 2015, I went there to help them more in the quantum medicine arena. And so they had gone around China, all over China. These are places where they've gone all over China to collect Chinese herbal remedies. And they got these over 600 secret recipes that had been handed down from generations.
Wow.
And they've done, well, this is a really old presentation. Now they're up to over, I think they've done over 80,000 people with these things. So here's what we did. So they invited me to China, and they made up all these recipes, these remedies, and then one by one, I would go through them and convert the vibration that's in that remedy into a digital signature that we could store in the computer.
That's amazing. That technology blows my mind.
Yeah, I agree. It was a lot of work. I mean, we did this for day after day after day. We had like, we did like 400 or 500 remedies while I was there.
Yeah.
And it was quite a process. There were like 26 people involved in this whole process. It was recording it and cooking them.
Yeah.
And so we converted the physical vibration into informational fields. Then we would reverse that informational field and just put it into water. Because a lot of these remedies, you can't get them anymore. They're illegal, or they're old, or the people don't know how to do them, or there's pollution. So they wanted to preserve them. And so that's what I did on my part. Then after I left, they tried these. At this point, it was only on like 20,000 people. But they tried them on all these different diseases. Now, these were Chinese remedies specifically for these things. But they did like 200 people for heart problems. And they had 173 clients. And it's going a little too fast. And they had an 86% recovery rate. I mean, just amazing stuff. Digestive problems, they had 83% success rate. Gout, getting rid of gout, 86%. This is water. They only used water, but it had information in it.
That's it.
Respiratory problems, 86%. Bone fractures, they had 97% healing. I know one of them, they did x-rays before and after. Within 6 hours, the bone had healed.
What?
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Prostate problems, they had 89% success rate.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, so, and this was a small sample, but since then they've done over 80,000 people. And the first 20,000 they did with hospital studies where they would make them go to the hospital and check, and then get all the test results and make sure that everything was actually the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So these are some of the people. Their goal was mainly to work with the elderly people because they don't have very good health care, like insurance and things like that. And so the man that Wangong and Hanye's father, Hanye's father, Wangong's father-in-law,
yeah.
Sponsored this, and his goal was to help as many of the old people as possible. And so these are the different sprays, and they would just basically spray them into the energy field, and your energy field will then pick it up, and they just have.
Oh, they weren't even drinking the water.
No.
Oh,
You see that?
It was just a spray.
You see the guy spraying it here on his forehead.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, just amazing.
Wow.
So, what I want to talk a little bit about that people in the audience can do for themselves to experience this is the global network that we've created, a quantum global network. And this is radionics at its best. I have to say, this is very, very creative. And our people in China first started it in China. And then we worked developing it more in India and America. And then now we have a global network of instruments around that people can use. So there's a website that people can go to, qsserver.com, and I'll come back to that, but they might want to write that down.
Yeah. We'll put all this in the end. So
great. Perfect. Okay. So what are quantum servers? Quantum servers are basically the SE5 put into rack mount units so that we can connect up lots and lots of them to the internet. So we have about, in China, they have about 400 units. In India, we've got about 50 units. And then in America, we've got more units. So people can get into the network and choose a program to run on themselves, and they can experience it for themselves. So these were some of the servers that we have set up. And this was our very first one that I just took some photos of putting together the very first quantum server to do the testing with. And we had just fabulous results. I mean, absolutely. I mean, you know, some of these results.
Yes, I have experienced when my son, 11 years old, had typhoid in January, and I called you panicking, Don, help me, can you do something? His fever is 104, and they're saying that it will take at least 48 hours before the medication can affect him. And you said, yeah, let me get on the machine, call me back. I said, okay. Took a picture of him sleeping in the hospital bed, and 4 hours later, his fever went down to 100, 101, which was, they didn't know how. He only had one dose of the antibiotic at that point in the system. So it was very quick. Yeah. And I mean, I saw the change immediately.
Yeah. It's pretty immediate. It's instantaneous. Yeah. And it's not a cure-all. And people have to keep in mind that this is not medical diagnosis, and it's not medical treatment. Yes. I always recommend, if people have a medical problem, they should go see a medical practitioner, a licensed doctor.
But now medicine has become kind of integrative, right? Because the typhoid example is the best. I mean, it's not that I didn't go to the hospital.
Right.
I did take my son to the hospital. He had the medicine or the care that he required, but this just kind of made it much more faster and more effective, I believe, So
absolutely.
I'm not the expert, but from where I am standing, I see the world, the alternative, the complementary medicine coming closer to the medical world and integrating.
Yeah, and we are getting more doctors. I just had a doctor in Vietnam that has taken up doing more remote balancing and analysis to find out what's wrong. Yeah. Because of the lockdown. I mean, everybody's sitting at home. So like, my friend, I had a friend in America, he said, I don't know if I can work on your project today because I've got this toothache. And he called the dentist and they were closed. He couldn't even go to the dentist. And so I said, well, I'll see what I can do. make a little program for you, you know? So we do this remote balancing, especially right now when we don't have access to a lot of things.
Right.
But this is just the inside of one of the quantum servers, and you know, doesn't.
Yeah. So just to you know, kind of bring it into perspective for our viewers here, you don't now the way that you set this up, we don't really need anybody to actually do the balancing. Does it run on its own? How does it run without an actual practitioner doing the balancing or creating the program?
Okay. I'll show you how to do that. First, you'd have to register, and I've got a little short film of how to register.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you how to run a program on yourself.
Yeah.
Now,
but how does it work without human interface is my question before you show the actual way of doing it.
Okay. Well, first of all, you have to upload your photo to the server so that we have a connection point. Now, this is not analysis. So keep in mind, these are general programs.
Right.
They're not going to be as specific as a practitioner sitting down and doing an analysis. So that, you know, it's sort of like the difference kind of is like when you go into a pharmacy. I don't know if it's like this in India, but in America, if you go into a pharmacy, you have the open shelf pharmaceuticals. So everybody can just go in and buy their aspirin and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But for the things behind the shelf where the pharmacist works, you have to have a receipt, a prescription.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously that's going to work better than the ones that are out on the shelf that everybody can buy. But, you know, you have to know what you're doing with those things. So it's kind of like that. So this is kind of like the open source, you know, walk into the drugstore and get your remedies and take them home. And most of the time they work. But if they don't work, then you need to go to see a practitioner.
Okay.
You don't have to go to see them, but, you know, send them an email. And we do have practitioners that will do an analysis and then do a specific thing for that client.
Right.
Yeah. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, you have to upload your photograph and then register, and you get an email. I'll just show you a couple of little things. And then after that, I'll show you how to run a program. It's really simple.
Okay.
Now that you've found your way to QS,
do you hear the sound?
I'm going to show you how to register.
Can you increase the volume?
Some of the programs that we
reduce it?
No, increase.
Sign up. You'll get.
Let's see if I can turn it up.
Point.
Not sure. Okay, then you know what might work better. Let me just see if I. No, that's probably not going to work.
Well, they can go on the website and see it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we can just show the steps and you can just talk us through.
Yeah, exactly. I can just tell it.
Yeah.
Programs and find out how they work for you. We've got a couple of short videos that I suggest watching. And let's see how to register.
So basically, you go to the register button.
Register button.
And
then you'll need to switch over to the register side instead of the login side. And then if you want to use your Google account, you can click here and choose the Google account that you want to use.
That's the easiest, is to use Google.
Right.
But you can just put in your name and email address.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty standard kind of thing.
Phone number. And the email is put in for you. And then go ahead and click I've read and agree to the terms and conditions, which you can find on the website, and submit it.
Now, the tricky part is you're going to get an email, and you have to accept that.
Email to validate and activate your account. If you've not received an email, please contact us here at this email address. So I click OK, and I'm going to go to my email, and here I got the email. Now, sometimes, depending on your settings, it might show up in your spam. So look down here and find your spam folder if it didn't show up right away, but it should show up right away. So I'm going to click on the validate your email address button, and then go back and check your email box, and you should get another email from us. So it'll give you your login and password, and of course you can change your password once you've logged in. I'm going to just copy this password, and I click login. So this time when I log in, I'll be on the login button, not on the register button. because I already have my ID.
So it's very straightforward things, but kind of have to know step by step.
Yeah.
Paste in that password that I got in that confirmation email. Click sign in, and here it is, says I'm successful. So now it's going to take me, if you want to save your password, you can, but I'm going to change mine right away anyway, so I'm not going to save it. So the first thing you'll need to do is you'll need to upload your photograph. So I go to profile, and this is also very important. This is for experimental use only, and it is not considered a treatment or diagnostic tool, just for experimenting with informational fields. Okay, so I have my name in here. Here's where you can change your password. I'm going to change my password now. And if you want to put in your gender, you can. And here you need to upload your photo, and we've got a photo guidelines page here to put in a proper photo of yourself. Here in the photo guidelines, it says, do not make it any bigger than 1200 by 1600 pixels. So if it's too big, you're going to need to make it smaller in a program like Photoshop or Windows Paint or any kind of photo editing program. Oftentimes when you take it from your phone, it's going to be a really high resolution picture. So you're going to have to either adjust that before you take it on your phone.
So this is just uploading the picture, right? And the specs are on the website.
Yeah.
What kind of?
That's very important because
Yeah.
I actually made that mistake. And I'm going, why isn't it uploading?
Okay. And so you're putting the picture in. It's most important because it's picking up the energy field from the photograph.
Yeah, you want to have a whole body photo.
Right. So you need the whole body. Okay.
That's the best. It says you can use a passport photo. I like to have a full body photo. That's better. Better photo, you get better results.
Right. Okay. And then you can choose the kind of different kinds of programs that are available.
Exactly. Yeah.
The mantra for forgiveness is only 30 points, so I'm going to go ahead.
So we have what are some of the generic ones, and we have one for like a virus program also, right?
Yeah. So let me just let's see. I think I'll just go. Let's see. Screen sharing has stopped. Okay. Let me go up. I'll just go to the actual website, and I can show we do have one specifically made for the coronavirus because a lot of people needed that one.
Right. And it's like it's not a cure, but it's to boost the immunity, kind of make the system stronger against the attack.
Yeah, I mean it's let me get my screen share back on so people can see where we're at. Okay. Yeah, again, it's not a medical we don't think in terms of medicine. We think in supporting our informational system.
Right.
So the cool thing is that this doesn't have to be done in a specific space. Like you don't have to go to a specific doctor's office or pharmacy or anything. You can do this from your phone. You can do it from your computer. And once you start a program like this, then it will find one of the instruments that's not being used and start sending the scalar information from there. It's really cool. Wow. So this is the one, we've got a couple different ones. One for the region that you're in.
Yeah.
We've got the immunity boosting one, and then the elimination from a geographical area. So you can get a photo of your house or your neighborhood and start running those frequencies in that area as well.
Area. Okay, wow. And what is the distance that it covers?
That depends on, I mean, I know there are people putting the whole earth in.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm not going to say no, right?
Right, why not? There's no harm in trying it.
Right. But I think your local area kind of is more related to you.
Right.
So it makes more sense to do your village or neighborhood or something like that. from my own, but that might be my own limitation.
Okay.
Now this one over here is actually aimed at both boosting the immune system, informational fields, as well as eliminating those viral informational fields as well. So I use it prophylactically. Basically, I run it a couple times a week just to keep the energy field clear. It's sort of like when you have a clear field, it's a resonant. This all has to do with resonance.
Right.
So some people walk into a room and they get sick, and other people are in the same room and they don't get sick. Why is that? Because they don't have any resonance.
Right.
So this is all about resonance, and it's all about resonating the field and getting your field to be out of resonance with the virus and in tune with the higher life forces.
Right.
That's really what it's about.
I understand. I think that's a simple explanation. Yeah.
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 So when people sign up, they'll get 400 points for free, and the program is 100 points on this one. For the area around your geographical area, it's only 50 points. So you can run this several times, and then see, But we've just got tons of different programs. I mean, I'll scroll through just a few, but when you say view all, you'll see we've got just tons and tons of programs for affirmations and addiction, acupuncture, allergies, anti-aging, astrological corrections, Ayurvedic balancing, black energy removal, Chinese herbal remedies, child problems. I mean, it just goes on and on. And each one of these has more programs underneath of it.
Right.
But just to get started, people can experiment and try some of these things and see how they feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm open to questions if people have any questions.
Sure.
That's basically
Keshav,
what I wanted to tell
questions?
people.
Can we see the questions? So can you see, Don? Can you read the question?
Oh, I see. Oh, you're asking me. I'm sharing my screen, so I have to stop. I'll probably have to stop.
No, that's okay. So then I can read it.
Okay, go ahead and read the question.
Okay, so I want to ask you how we can send a message to a tree and another person. I've done this experiment with my plants in my garden. I sit near them with positive vibrations, but although after that, right now, I'm done. So I guess he's asking how you can send the vibrations over distance.
Okay, well, the cool thing about radionics is, we can do a lot of these things with our own mind and our energy field, like, charging up the tree, talk to your plants, love your plants.
Right.
That works, right?
Yeah.
But what's really cool about radionics is that when you take a photograph of the plant, and the plant can be halfway across the planet,
right,
and you put it in the instrument, it makes an energetic connection through the scalar field.
right,
and it's instantaneous. They've done measurements. Dr. Sunny did some measurements in India, where they actually were measuring it with atomic clocks, and it's basically an instantaneous transfer of information.
Wow.
It's faster than the speed of light, actually. And what's really cool about radionics is that it holds that intention for you. So you look up a tuning frequency for, let's say, the love vibration for your plants.
Right.
And you put that in, and then you go off and you can do whatever else what you want to do, and the instrument then will keep that connection going and keep that connection and the energy going back and forth, holding that intention. So that's kind of the key.
Right. Okay. So how can we use this for daily empowerment and manifestation of intentions?
Yeah, we have some positive thinking affirmations, and there's a whole bunch of programs for that. The easy way to do it is just to upload your photo and pick one of the things that we have. We have for relationships, for success, your purpose in life, and we've got a lot of programs, success and achievement, money, and just run them and see what happens. You get to feel it for yourself. It's so simple.
Yeah. I can try it. Actually, even I didn't know all this was available, Don. I want to go try some.
Oh, it's just awesome. It's just
Yeah.
awesome.
The next question is, can I do it for a distant relative who is sick?
Yes. In fact, there's an area on here for clients. And so as you know, you can add other people's photos and all that.
Right.
Of course, with this, you need to have their permission. You don't
Right.
just go and secretly snap their picture and upload them,
Yeah.
because that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, you can do that. We've got it set up so you can run for practitioners as well. I mean,
Right.
we've got a lot of doctors now using this, and
Yeah.
practitioners or
Yeah.
different types of people. And
Yeah.
so they just set it up on their clients, and then they charge their client a certain
Yeah.
amount, and then put it on the server.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? Anyone? I'm not seeing the chat questions, guys. Can you show me the chat questions? Yeah. Can you use this to get information about one's past lives?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can use the SE5 for that, not this program, because this has no analysis function, but
Right.
radionics, of course.
Yeah.
I did, so this is the SE5 1000. So we had a very interesting one. A friend of mine, this was a long time ago, he said, oh, I want to know what my past life is, and I said, okay. So I thought, well, see what I can do. I was very new at this. I didn't know what I was doing. But so I went over the letters of the keyboard to see if I could get his name.
Yeah.
And I got the initials T, J, and the letter C. And I said, it's all I'm getting. I don't know what that is, okay. I was new at this.
Yes.
So he calls me up about a month later and he said, you won't believe what happens. Oh, and this guy was he was an accountant, right? He was studying for his PhD to become an accountant and mathematics professor.
Right.
And he said, you won't believe what I found in the library. There are these amazing books by this guy named TJC, but it was SEE, right? That's how his name was. And he was a mathematician, and he has all these amazing theories about gravity. So he found it.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, you could get some information about your past life and ask questions, and yeah, sure.
Okay, so how often can you use this?
Well, I mean, you can use it 24/7, for different programs. But what I've suggested, people have asked me this over and over especially for the SARS thing.
Right.
I kind of feel like twice a week is enough to keep the energy field clear. If you're not having anything, if any symptoms come up because of the seriousness of this, I think, if it was me, I would put it on twice a day.
Right.
Yeah. Seriously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But generally, yeah, you can run different programs as much as you want. I mean, if you start noticing that you have too much energy and you're not sleeping, then I'd take a break.
Oh, it can do that also, huh?
Sure. Yeah. Depending on the programs.
Right.
But some of those, especially those affirmation programs, you can get pretty buzzed with those. But I have found that sometimes it's like, okay, I think I better take a day off.
Yeah. The other thing is there any negative effects? Can it negatively impact? Is there any harm it can do?
No, actually, very interestingly, because and I didn't do this, the inventor of the original SE5 did this. He put actually in circuitry to prevent any negative energy from leaving the instrument. So if somebody did want to do something negative with it, it just grounds it out. And actually, we did have one person trying to do that. We found that out later. They had sent the instrument back because it had stopped working, and it was all corroded inside. And then we looked into some of the programs, and they were trying to get some money from their aunt or something like that. And it just ruined the whole instrument. It just grounded it, corroded it.
So it won't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the last question I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
It's saying, so Doesn't it depend on the object or person who is being photographed if they actually want to share the vibrations? For example, if we can actually take a pic of Jesus or an enlightened person and transfer the higher vibrations to the desired clients.
Well, again,
like we did with the pyramid.
Right, you can do that. So I have an interesting story. Again, you need the permission of the person. Right? Okay. So so we were, Ilona, my wife, she's a flute player, and she was just kind of getting started playing flute. And so one of her teachers was a very good flute player. And she said, oh, there's a master class in Seattle with Ransom Wilson. And, all the great flute players of Seattle will be there. And you should go. So we went and watched it. It's just mainly him and a few people. Her teacher was actually one of the students performing, not really performing, but in the front doing the class. So afterwards, we just got this idea. It's like, we could go ask him if we could get his photo, And so we walked down and we said, would you mind if we take a photo and do some radionics with it so we can blah, blah, blah. I kind of explained it to him to see if we could improve her flute playing that way. And his eyes got about this big and he said, wow, that's amazing. Sure, go ahead and do that. And so we did that. And then he asked, well, what else could it do? And I gave him some ideas about, it's a big field. But anyway, had to do with some, that you could remove blockages from energy. And he said, well, I've got this energy blockage from building this house, and everything's ready to go, and it's stalled. And I said, well, okay, send me the information. So we did that, and like within one day, the energy cleared, and he got his house built, and so we ended up becoming friends. So he was so happy. He said, okay, well, next time I'm in town, I'll come by. And so he came and visited us at our house, and he gave Ilona a flute lesson, private flute lesson. And he said, he gave her 2 lessons. One was at the beginning, and then he came back about a year later, and he was blown away by her progress. And I said, well, of course she practices as well, but we've been sending the information from you as being this, he's a top flute player, to her. And he was very, very impressed. And so, we had a nice
But you did have his permission.
Of course.
Since you had the permission, yes, you could transfer the vibration.
I mean, Jesus would probably say yes no matter what, but he's not a real ass. So I don't think there are any actual photos of Jesus to use, but why not? But
I think we can just take the Christ consciousness and we can transfer that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Don. So it's been a really enlightening session, and I think something very new for everyone to think about. If you want to check it out, guys, do go to qssserver.com and just email us with any questions, and we will help sort you out. Thank you, Don. Lovely
You're
chatting
welcome.
with you as
that
always.
Was fun. Thanks so much.
Say hi to Ilona. Bye.
I will. Okay. Bye.
Bye. And guys, catch us every day this week at 5 o'clock. There's different sessions every day. So tomorrow is breathwork, and Wednesday I'm back on again with Neeta about traveling within ourselves when we cannot go outside. And so we're doing exciting things this week. Lots of different meditations coming up. Check out the schedule, and we hope to see you back again soon. Thank you. Bye.